books. I've got 6 different comic books in here, but right off the top, I'm going to tell you I did not get Flashpoint Beyond #2. I looked at it and saw all the different creators on the book. I saw it sitting right next to another big DC event, which is Dark Crisis, and I was just like, this doesn't matter. I don't care. So I let it go. Now that said, there were only actually 5 other Batman titles that came out this week. So the 6th book is something of a dark horse. And I don't mean that in a punny way. It is a DC comic. I'll go through these in alphabetical order. And actually, a lot of pretty intriguing stuff this week. Fair number of books I'm actually really excited to check out. So kicking things off, we have Batman 124, cover art here by Jorge Molina, which I think is kind of a great cover. I really have been enjoying his art when he's doing Batman stuff. Inside, looks like we have a return of the Abyss character. Final issue from Joshua Williamson. Very curious to see how he wraps up his short but very effective run on the Batman ongoing series. Next, we have Batman Beyond Neo Year #3. Issue 1 of this was, I don't want to say it was a dud, but it was very underwhelming. Second issue really kicked things into high gear, kind of brought back in the Gotham artificial intelligence plotline that was set up in Urban Legends, if I remember right. Hoping this one really continues to grab me, because I think the potential for this book is actually really, really high. Another book that's been really improving week to week is Batman Killing Time. We're up to issue #4. Issue 3 was absolutely rocking with the inclusion of The Help, and seeing him just kick the crap out of everybody, including Batman, was fantastic. So can't wait to see how this story develops with issue #4. Next up is Dark Knights of Steel, issue 7 of 12. Still have to catch up on this, so one of the only books that I will not be reviewing for you guys today. Obviously, this has been getting tons and tons of great reviews from you guys on YouTube, so I am excited to sit down, read through this whole thing, and give you guys a review of my thoughts of the series overall at some point, whether once I get through issues 1 through 6, or at this point, maybe just once I get through the whole 12-issue arc. We'll see. I've been putting it off 7 months now, which is kind of crazy. Doesn't feel like it's been that long. Alright, and then the black sheep of the books I picked up this week, not technically a Batman title, but the first 4 issues very heavily set in Gotham City with Batman, Robin as supporting characters. This week, we are off to Amnesty Bay in Monkey Prince #5. Now, I said last month I was going to stop picking up Monkey Prince because we're getting out of the Gotham City stuff. Doesn't really fit in the collection because I'm only collecting Batmans and singles. But I just couldn't resist it. It just looked like fun. I've been loving this series, and I don't want to wait to read this in trade. And especially looking at this side by side with Flashpoint Beyond, deciding not to pick up that book, picking up this book instead, hopefully sends a little bit of a message to DC about what it is I think they really have going for them and what they don't have going for them. So I went ahead and grabbed it. Now, this book I also won't be giving a review to you guys today because it's not part of This Week in Batman anymore, but just know I picked it up. I'm still loving it, breaking my own rule to pick it up, so if you were ever on the fence about this book, just know it's still out there, and I do still strongly recommend it. Just a really, really fun title. Alright, so that just leaves one more book that I'm really excited for. I saw this advertised like a month ago and had no idea that it was coming because I never pay attention to the solicitations. You guys probably all knew it was on its way, but when I saw it called out, I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I would definitely read a solo book starring Poison Ivy. And so here we have it. This is just as Pride on it. I'm not sure if this is a limited series or if this is supposed to be an ongoing. My guess is this is ultimately going to be a limited series. I don't know how long it's running for. But Poison Ivy in her own solo title. Honestly, this is probably a better idea than like a Harley Quinn solo title, which has been floundering lately, has had mixed results in past iterations. Poison Ivy just is a bit more of a dynamic character, a bit more of someone that's capable of being just a little bit more of a driving force in a narrative than someone like Harley Quinn, who's just kind of all over the map. So really excited to give this a read. I was leafing through it and the art is fantastic, and I can't wait to let you guys know what I think of it. So that's everything I picked up. We've got 4 titles to review, so I'm going to get reading and let you guys know what happened this week in Batman. Alright, so I've had a chance to sit down and read through my Batman books. I've organized these from least favorite to most favorite. So let's dig right in. It was a fun week overall. Now, Monkey Prince, I read this also and just want to give it a shout out. It was great again this week. Kind of a fun, episodic kind of element to this where it harkens back to the first issue in kind of like a Back to the Future Part 2 kind of a way where it's like, wait, is this going to be the same story just in a different place with a different circumstance? I think that kind of is what it's going to be. But it's kind of playing into that in a fun way. So check it out. This would be in the top half for sure of the books I picked up this week if I was ranking it. But of the 4 Batman titles, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. I feel a little bit bad putting this at the bottom because I did think it was a good read, but it was definitely a step down from last issue, and that is Batman Beyond Neo Year number 3. And even as I'm starting this review for you guys, I'm having some difficulty pinning down what it is that's not working about this. It just seems like whenever we're dealing with that AI storyline, the book is really firing on all cylinders. And whenever we get into these other subplots, supporting characters, other faces of Gotham City, even though it's clear that they're going to tie into that AI storyline, it just isn't as compelling as the AI itself. So we're dealing with this Lumos character who's in charge of basically, Wayne Corporation, which is now the Wayne Powers Corporation. He's throwing a retirement party for Barbara Gordon, and he kind of pulls a RoboCop move and basically says, hey, guess what? I'm privatizing police and I'm going to run it. And so, throws everyone for a loop. Ultimately, this is kind of a lot of setup for what's going to come in the future. I just didn't find it that compelling. I don't think this Lumos character is that interesting. What I will say is that the second half of the story is Terry McGinnis meeting up with the one police officer at this retirement party that's not happy about the news that Lumos is taking over the department. So he sort of recognizes that, singles her out, and they go out for a burger together. Now, to clarify, he's playing someone other than Terry McGinnis here. He's in disguise. And so she immediately latches onto that and kind of catches him off guard, kicks the crap out of him at dinner. I think her character is pretty interesting, and I'm excited to see where they go with her. It's clear that he's planning on bringing her into his confidence, and so it'll be interesting to see where they go with her with issue 4. I liked her a lot. At the end of the book, we have the Sword of Gotham making an appearance. Terry McGinnis is in a holodeck trap, and we get the tease for, the beginning of the next issue, which was fine. It didn't blow me away. The highlight was this character right here. The art style in this, I think, fits the Batman Beyond aesthetic while differentiating itself to feel like it's been adapted to a comic book format and is a little bit more fitting of the format, which is good. I don't know. I still don't know what to say about it. I think it's another case of juggling a lot of different B plots and letting the A plot fall by the wayside, which it needs to not do. They're setting up a lot here. It really is going to depend on where it comes together. I am confident that it will come together, but in the meantime, it's just been kind of a bumpy road through these first 3 issues. All right, next up we have Joshua Williamson's farewell issue, Batman 124, right before Chip Zdarsky is going to take over the title, bring it to new explosive heights. Everyone's really excited to have Zdarsky on this title. So I'm certainly looking forward to it as well, although I really like Joshua Williamson on Batman. And so it's kind of sad to see him going, despite, the promise of what's on the horizon. The reason this book ranks lower is just because it doesn't do a whole lot. It feels ultimately like a largely skippable book. Abyss is back out on the streets. Batman is chasing her, and you get this fantastic rendition from Howard Porter of Batman on the Batcycle, which probably my favorite double-page spread of the week, bar none. And you find out that this is not actually Abyss, this is the detective that was working with Batman during the Abyss debacle. She has taken on the cowl of the Abyss for her own ends to get revenge for her parents who were killed under suspicious circumstances. They sort of promise that this character is going to be joining Batman Inc., which I think is good. Probably the most exciting thing about that Batman Inc. title at this point. I think they needed to do more of this, actually, to set up Batman Inc., where it's like they set up the Ghostmaker, now they've set up Abyss. We got the annual issue where we set up the Wolf Batman or whatever. I think they really needed to build this team from the ground up, so it'll be interesting to see who actually ends up on the Batman Inc. team. It could be a nice payoff for a lot of characters that they've been setting up over the last year. But as I said last week when I read the annual, it could also be just a dumping ground for where do we put all these characters that we came up with, because we don't know what to do with them. So I guess time will tell when that book finally comes around. As far as the resolution of this story, you have kind of a good moment here where Batman trusts Abyss to make the right decision. He compares it back to when he confronted Joe Chill after Joe Chill confessed to killing Bruce Wayne's parents. She has to make sort of a similar choice as he did when he was younger. And, of course, she makes the right one, makes it onto the Batman Inc. team. I just like that Batman held back, right? He didn't get, like, hyper involved, fatherly, protective figure. Like, he trusted her to make the right decision, which was good. I liked that. Now, this does, of course, have a backup story, which is a Poison Ivy-centric one. This is written by G. Willow Wilson and illustrated by Danny, and basically just sets the stage for the Poison Ivy ongoing mini-series thing, which I read basically immediately after I read through this prelude. And no complaints. It was solid. It was really just a teaser, so there's not a whole lot to say about it. I didn't feel like after I read Poison Ivy that I particularly needed this to like clarify anything. So again, just kind of lending to the overall theme of Batman 124, which is that it's just kind of skippable. So there you have it. Batman 124. Goodbye, Joshua Williamson. You will be missed. What is the runner-up to my pick of the week this week? Well, that has to go to Batman Killing Time, number 4, going up the ranks, fairly low on my list the first couple issues, and I can't remember if it was my pick of the week for last month. If not, it was just beat out by something that just outdid it, because I really liked that read. It really stuck with me. And this book, while not quite good enough to be pick of the week, was still a fantastic read. Definitely some of my favorite Tom King Batman in here, which I have not particularly been a fan of Tom King on Batman. I think that this does a great job. Here's another Batman Bat Cycle splash page, by the way. But this is just a little bit more of a straightforward Batman story in a way. Like, you've got the Batman villains being Batman villains. Catwoman is not, the future bride of Batman. And, it just harkens back to a simpler time, but has that sort of Tom King mystery box twist to it, which is, we don't know exactly what it is that Catwoman and Riddler have stolen. We have all these time jumps from 3,000 years ago to 2,500 years ago to now to 7 years before now to back in the day with Ra's al Ghul and Bruce Wayne in his, back when he was training. We've got the introduction of this Help character, which is just so cool. I would love to see Help come back in the proper, current Batman timeline. I think that would be amazing, although I don't know where he would fit in or when they would squeeze him in, but I would love to have him back. And it's just made for a really fun mystery thriller with very well sketched out characters and villains. I mean, that's just kind of the bottom line. The art inside by David Marquez is stunning, is able to hit a lot of different beats because there's like comedy, you've got Batman fighting tigers in this, but you've also got like horrific penguin, you've got ancient Greek history, but it all feels cohesive and of a piece. And not every artist would be able to pull something like this off, and does a lot to pull together, Tom King's sort of ADHD writing style that he's presenting in this. Now, I still have reticence about this because at the end of the day, it's almost impossible to pay off, a mystery box storyline like this because you spend so much time building it up. There's all this anticipation, and you're just kind of going to be left with, and when you find out what the actual, whole thing was about. I also find myself questioning, would this be as good if it didn't have all the narrative jumps? Like, is this title over-reliant on its story structure to make it interesting. I like to think that it would work, but Tom King can't help himself, and he's got to, just tie his own story in a knot to make sure that the audience is interested. We're over halfway through the series, and we're still jumping through all these time jumps. We should be streamlining as we get to the end, I think. And I don't think we're going to get that until the very, very end with issue 6, or maybe not even then. At least to me, simpler is better. It's just my bottom line. That is how I feel about what I read. If you're going to make it complicated, you damn well better be able to pay it off and justify overcomplicating it. So I guess we'll see. It was still my second from pick of the week. It's right up there on the list. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm just waiting for Tom King to betray me. We'll see. All right, so then that leads to my pick of the week, which goes unequivocally to Poison Ivy #1. I had a lot of hopes when I saw the cover of this, and I was like, oh, this is intriguing. I want to see what this is. And first of all, you pop it open and you leaf through it, and the artwork is, in my opinion, phenomenal. It absolutely captures Mother Nature in a really sort of both beautiful and horrific way. Every chance they get to show you, the green at work, they do it in a way that is beautiful to look at. There's not a lot of sharp lines in this. It's a lot of curves and spirals, and really causes your eye to move through the page differently than it would if this was done by a more angular artist. And I think it absolutely fits the tone, the style, the subject matter, and I just found it to be a beautiful read. The colors in this, somewhat muted sometimes they really pop. Here's one where it's almost fluorescent at times, but it's got this sort of wonderful pseudo watercolor style that I also think works really well, fits the book nicely, and accents where it needs to accent, because a lot of it is kind of drab, greenish gray, but punctuated with color in the right places. So I think it's used to great effect, and the highlights definitely, as I turn to this page, they really speak for themselves. Now, as far as the story, I think that Poison Ivy in this is in a really interesting place, and makes me appreciate her role in Fear State a little bit more, in a sense, because now we're getting into the fallout of that, and I really like what they're doing with it. So, Queen Ivy, more powerful than she's ever been. She's completely interconnected with the green, but she's also losing herself to the green, and eventually she would have just become a non-sentient plant with a little bit of Poison Ivy's DNA, basically, is how they kind of explain it in here. So Harley Quinn saves her from that fate, but did she really want to be saved? And now, she's going on this quest to sort of not reclaim her power, because she can't, but kind of go out with a bang, and what that's going to mean for civilization and the human race, and the future of the green is all up for grabs in this story. So it just made for a really interesting read. Poison Ivy, super compelling character in this. She does some grisly stuff, but it's that wonderful type of grisly where it's not just gory, but it's horrific. It's not quite body horror, because there's a green element to it, but it definitely spills into that camp. So at times this book is sort of creeps up on you and is surprisingly unnerving. You sympathize with her victims, but you are totally along for the ride, because she is truly the protagonist of this book, and you are intended to see the world through her eyes. Just an absolutely adept balancing act. There have been multiple villain stories that DC's done over the years, but especially since Infinite Frontier. We got the Joker ongoing series. It was the Commissioner Gordon series. We've had Harley Quinn ongoing for quite a while now, and that is a rotating cast of characters, to which Harley Quinn is the punchline to various other characters doing stuff in that book. This is the first villain book where the villain is evil, she's doing evil stuff, but you're there to follow her through the story. Really not an easy tightrope to pull off, but G. Willow Wilson absolutely does it with this book. So for me, Poison Ivy, just no question, book of the week, fantastic read. I can't recommend it enough. So that wraps me up for this week in Batman. Not a bad title out of here. So like, you know, again, Batman 124 kind of filler. Neo Year, underwhelming, but still on the right track. And then two absolute banger books. One which I have my doubts about, but I'm along for the ride right now, and it's definitely working for me. And then just a stellar outing from Poison Ivy. Better than I was anticipating, and I had high hopes. When I was picking it up, I was like, I'm too excited about this. This is going to disappoint me. And it didn't. So way to go, DC. Kicking off Pride Month, I guess, with a bang. I'm not sure if there's any other Pride books I'm going to be picking up, if there's any other Batman-specific Pride books, but I'll take it. This was a great read. Serves the Pride community well because it's a story well told, not just because Pride. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these reviews. I hope you guys have a great week in comics. Thanks for watching this video, and take care.